So in this video, I want to talk about 7 things that I've seen good photographers do over the years that are really easy to copy. Morning everybody, fantastic to see you all again. Before I get into the video, I've got this lens. I'm not going to be talking about gear because the things that good photographers do is definitely not to do with gear. But I do want to talk about this, so stick around to the end of the video because it's a little bit of an interesting lens. Okay, so there are these 7 things that good photographers do. Obviously there's more than 7, but these are the things that I think over the years that I've witnessed photographers that I look up to do and I've tried to emulate, and it's been successful. So I wanted to share them with you. They're really easy. Some of them easier than others, but they're definitely things that everybody can do. So straight into the first one, and that is perseverance. When I say perseverance, I mean that just going out again and again, but also going back to the same locations again and again. Some of the best photos that I see are from photographers that just know the area, or they've got a certain thing in their area that they just go back to again and again. And for an example of that, I want to talk about a photographer called Jack Lodge. Jack's a friend of mine and is a fantastic photographer, and his photos of Corfe Castle have caught my eye over the years. He's been there, I was speaking to him about this, and he's been there 25 times in the morning just for a sunrise over the last few years. And you can see by the progression of images here that they've improved as he's got to know the area better, but also to understand what weather's good. And eventually they lead in to this image here, which is such an incredible image at sunrise of this mist around the castle. But that didn't happen by accident. It happened through perseverance, through just going back again and again and again and just not giving up. And Jack is amazing at that. Go and check out his Instagram. I'll leave it somewhere here. And you'll see some of the other photos around his area that he's done that so well. On that last image of Jack's, he did mention to me that the day before that he went and the conditions weren't optimal, they were like this. So he just got up the next morning, and this was, you know, really early sunrise. So this is probably like a 3 a.m. alarm clock. So it just requires dedication and perseverance. Okay, on to the next point, and that is all about editing. Editing is so important in landscape photography. The majority of the photographers that I look up to are also very, very good editors. And I've learned over the years to improve my editing skills, and that has elevated my photography to the point where when I go to a scene now, I think about how that might look in an edit. And people always ask me, well, how do you do that? And I think it just takes time by just going to a scene, editing it, understanding what type of things work. So if you can pull the shadows out of something, if you can pull the highlights down in a certain type of sky, you just get to know that a little bit better. And I think it's just experience that and just trying things out. It's really easy to just do trial and error. And there's 3 things really in editing that make a difference to your photography. And that is, 1, it gives you a style to your photography. That might be a colour style, it might be that you crush your blacks, it might just be that you do black and whites, but there's definitely a style to your photography. The other one is that you can make the most of a scene. So obviously if you edit it, you start with a raw image, then it starts with something like this and ends up something like this. The raw image is just the data. It's just the ones and zeros. The camera's not done anything to it or not done very much to it. So you've got to go away and take that raw image and then do something with it and put your creativity on it. And then the final thing is it helps you tell the story, so you can dodge and burn it. You could maybe crop something out afterwards in the edit because you think that, you know, the first composition you did didn't quite work. And you can tell the story that you wanted to tell when you took that photo and bring that to life in the edit. So here's some examples of things that I've taken and the before and after, and you can see in these shots that there's a significant amount of editing going on. I just really want to show the scene as I saw it and give the feeling as I saw it. But you can also see by these images from a video I did last year that there's multiple different ways to edit one photo. This was a raw challenge, which I'm going to do again shortly. It will be in my email newsletter. So if you're not signed up for that, sign up below and I'll be sending out an email about this raw challenge and give you a chance to edit my raw photos. But it's really important editing. Everybody does it. Go and check out Michael Shaneblum or Daniel Corden. They're really, really good. Again, I'll leave links in the description below. video of their Instagrams and just look at how good they are at editing. My third point is learn the weather and go out in all weathers. It's really important to understand, what it produces a rainbow, what it produces fog, and you've got a better chance then of understanding what the weather needs to be like for a particular scene that you're shooting. There's a guy that I really admire called Demi Oral, and his photography is just incredible. Go and check it out. He recently won the Classic View in Landscape Photography of the Year, which is a UK-based photography competition. And with this image, this wasn't just by accident. This was really careful planning to get this rainbow. He didn't just, wasn't just strolling there and suddenly he saw a rainbow. And this video here, you can see that he posted on Instagram, just shows the progression of how he thought about that storm cloud and how he thought that might create the correct conditions for that rainbow. So it's important to understand the weather. The apps I use are Venture Sky, windy, clear outside, but the most important thing is just understanding when you need what type of weather for the location that you're trying to shoot. The fourth thing, and this is the mistake that I used to make all the time when I was learning photography, and that is there a subject or are you just photographing the light, the weather? Because even though you want good weather, you've also got to have a subject. Basically, a good photo comes together when you've got composition, you've got amazing light, you've got a really good subject, and you've timed it perfectly. If all those things happen, then you produce this amazing story, this photo, and you make something that's really, really great. But I didn't used to do that very well. I used to just take the weather or think, oh, that's good light, I'm just going to take a photo and not think so much about my location. Or if I did think about my location, I didn't think about it carefully. And you can see from these photos, these are actually some of my first digital images taken in around 2000. And you can see that they're interesting weather, there's interesting light, but there's not really much to the photos. Whereas if you progress now to what I take, then I really think carefully about the composition. So in this shot here, in the Faroes, which is an amazing place, but you've still got to think about the subject. I was thinking about the fact that the waterfall wasn't that strong, which was originally going to be my subject, but then I felt the cliffs were catching the light really nice, and when a wave hit there, it just balanced the scene really well. So everything just came together really well on this scene by thinking about the subject. And in this case, I think the subject is the cliffs and the wave. Luckily, I got a third subject, which was this eagle in this particular one, but that's just serendipity, I suppose. And then again, in this image here, which was one of the series of images I did around Sun Tree, the subject was this tree, and then the supporting actor, I suppose, was the sun. So it's important to think about the subject, what you're shooting, and then think about all the elements around the scene. How do they support that subject? That's really important because you don't want to put too much in the scene. Okay, I just want to thank this week's sponsor, and that is MPB. You probably saw in a previous video, I ordered this tilt shift lens from MPB, and it's arrived. And MPB is a platform that allows you to buy used equipment. I always used to buy my photography equipment used, to be honest, but I feel like used equipment is just a great way to go because lenses don't really degrade. What you want to be careful of though is you want to make sure that they've been inspected, you want to make sure that everything works on them. And that's where MPB is amazing. You can go on there and you can be sure that they've been inspected. They come with a 6-month warranty as well. And I have to admit, when I got this and I paid, probably 50% less for this lens, it looks new. I mean, I literally can't believe it. I've tried shooting with it. It's harder than I thought. So there will be a video coming out on this at some point, but it is definitely harder than I thought. So go and check out MPB. You can sell your equipment on there. They give you a really good price for equipment. And you can also buy equipment that's been inspected as well. So there's a link in the description below. Go and check out MPB. Okay, on to the next point, and that is simplifying your images. This isn't more about what we put in the image. If you think about it, about what you should leave out of the image, because more often than not, you put too much in the image. You just see a scene, you think, oh, that's really good. Oh, that tree's good. Oh, there's another thing over there that's good. And you put everything in it and it becomes a bit of too much really. And also you can put something in an image and it doesn't leave enough to the imagination. So like this shot here, I left out the top of the mountain just to give a greater idea of scale to this tiny little church here, because your imagination thinks this mountain's going to be way, way bigger. So by leaving out the top of the mountain, that's really helped this scene. And there's lots of my shots, as you can see here, that are just simple. I've just got in the image the things that are important and I've left out all the things that aren't important. So next time you're out, just go around your image and think, Is that adding to the composition? Is that telling the story that I want to tell with this photo? And if it's not, try and leave it out of the composition. I guarantee that'll get you a better photo. And I've seen so many good photographers do that over the years. Okay, the next one is the one that I talk about all the time, and that is just patience, just observing the scene. When you get to the scene, don't rush. It's super easy to say though, isn't it? Because I was in a woodland and there was a little bit of fog the other morning, and I got there and I was like a headless chicken. I got there and I was just chasing compositions. So I know what it feels like to do that, but I also know that if you just slow down, you just stop getting your camera out, you get an apple and you just look at the scene or you look at the environment that you're in, you'll see things that you didn't see if you just get your camera and just keep putting it on your tripod and just taking shots. Because you're not opening yourself up to creativity. You're just using your muscle memory effectively. You're just using your brain muscle memory to think, okay, I put my camera on my tripod, this is the scene, I'm taking the light and this tree, boom. And you always do the same things. So by just slowing down, you might just see something differently. And that's what I saw when I took this image here, which is a little bit different in Iceland, of these amazing bokeh patterns in the sand. And I think that's just so important, just to slow down. I honestly believe that's probably the most important thing out of all the things in these points. That if when you get to the scene, don't take your tripod out, don't take your camera out, just look at the scene and have maybe 20 minutes. Get there 20 minutes early and just have 20 minutes just to look around. Okay, the final thing, and this is something that I'm useless at because I just like doing everything, but it's become an expert in one area. If I look at all the people I think are the best at a particular genre of photography, so woodland photography, I would think of Mark Robbins. You can see here his images are just incredible of woodland photography, and he immerses himself in woodland photography. He doesn't mean that he's not good at other things, but he's brilliant at woodland photography, and that's because that's all he does, or that's the majority of the things that he does. So he starts to see things differently and he starts to get better at it because he's practicing it more and more. Whereas me, I'm doing woodland, then seascapes, then vistas. So I'm a bit of a jack of all trades. I'm good, I think, at them all, but I'm not brilliant at any one of them. So I think that is the best advice for myself. Is probably to specialise. And I'm actually going to do a project next year which is going to be interesting on that point. And then also Mark Dobson here is another good example of that. He's amazing at seascapes, probably one of the best seascape photographers that I know, and his seascapes and his waves, as you can see, are just so incredible. They're really, really incredible, and that's because he does it all the time and he immerses himself in it. So, if you've got an area that you really love, then I would, say go for it. Try and do more of that because you will get better at it, and that will definitely improve your photography. Anyway, that's it. Just one more bonus tip really, which is seek feedback from your friends and your peers really. And that's something that I'm going to do next Sunday. In fact, I've already done. I've not seen the video, but I've asked Michael Shaneblum, Adam Gibbs, Mas-Peter Iversen, and Alex Nail, all photographers that I look up to, that I really admire, to critique some of my images, and I'm really worried about the results. But next Sunday we're going to see that. You're going to see my reaction to it, and I'm sure that will improve my photography, because I'm sure that they're going to give me stuff to think about that I didn't think about when I took those photos. So I think that's always good. I do it all the time anyway, behind the scenes, and ask people about my photos, but it's something that you can definitely do. Okay, that's it for this week. I hope you've enjoyed it. Until next Sunday, bye.